The Constitution is one piece of this puzzle. It's the Declaration of Independence that makes the Constitution what it is. The Declaration of Independence is the why. The Constitution is the how. The Declaration is the why. The Constitution is the how. And we're so busy out there fighting our own specific issues that we've left the foundation unguarded. And when I talk about foundation, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Declaration of Independence and the ideas that are embraced in it. Take me back for a moment to World War II. One of the common techniques used by our allies was to take dummies, fill them with dynamite, attach them to the parachute, and drop them over enemy territory. Why? So the Germans would utilize their time and their resources on those things. Well, why? So they couldn't fight the real battle when it needed to be fought. Ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly what's going on here today in America. We are being lured to fight certain issues, and we're leaving the foundation unguarded. We're allowing them to control the conversation. We're allowing them to dictate what goes on in the discussion. And that's why we're losing this battle. And we are losing to a certain degree. But we've got to go on the offensive and defend this foundation. Well, watch this. What is the philosophy of government? If you had to identify the philosophy of American government, what would that be? Yes?
Second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence.
Second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence is exactly right. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. That is the philosophy of American government. That the idea that all men are born free. And we're going to set up a system of government that allows individuals to be responsible for their own choices, even if their neighbor doesn't like it. Even if 99% of the people don't like what that 1% is doing, it doesn't matter. We're going to set up a system of government that allows all individuals to be protected because all men are born free. But then watch this. If we got the philosophy of government, what is the purpose of government? Protection. It tells us in that very next sentence after the philosophy. It says, we hold these truths to be self-evident. It talks about freedom, and then it tells us in the very next sentence what the purpose of government is. That to secure these rights, what rights? Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. That is the obligation, the primary obligation of government. But then it even goes further. It tells us something even more profound. It says, who is the source of this power? Well, who is the source of all power? It's the people. Deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. It tells us about this idea that Thomas Jefferson loved to talk about, popular sovereignty. Popular sovereignty means the power begins with the people. The power does not begin with the government. It begins with the people. We're supposed to be in control of this ballgame. But we've trusted government. We've literally trusted the vultures of government to guard our lunch, and they've eaten it. Their job is to protect our liberties, and yet they consistently find ways to take them away. Some of it knowingly, I would say more of it unknowingly. And here's the reason why I say unknowingly. Because when you ask congressmen what the idea of government or purpose of government is, most of them cannot tell you. When you listen to them talk, it's rather evident they don't understand what they're doing there. Jim Clyburn is absolutely my favorite example of this because he is the epitome of government incompetence. He's asked the question by Andrew Napolitano on national TV, where do you get your authority to legislate something like health care? His response is this: where in the Constitution does it say that I can't? Oh, shit. And the American people were sitting back saying, yeah, where does it say that he can't do that? No one mounted an aggressive offense against this man. We went out 6 weeks ago. I flew out to Washington, D.C., and I pounded on Jim Clyburn's door. I literally did. I walked in, I talked to his staff. I said, I understand Jim Clyburn has certain positions about the Constitution. Is he interested in being a part of a forum to discuss his position? What do you think he's going to say? No. Well, we'll see about that, but right now it's not looking too good. We marched down to the individual who occupied the seat of Phil Hare. Phil Hare is a congressman out of Illinois. No longer occupies the seat, but reached out to the congressperson that is now occupying the seat, saying, help us reach out to Phil Hare. You remember Phil Hare, he was on TV as well. And he says, where do you get your authority to legislate things like health care? And his response was, I don't really care about the Constitution when it comes to this matter. What? You took an oath to defend and uphold the Constitution. If you don't care about that, what Constitution are you defending and upholding? No one's answering this and no one's asking this. And until we start going on the offensive and mandating that individuals who embrace ideas different than our own justify why those ideas are better, we are going to make very little headway. To give you an example. So, I don't want to say that I was railroaded because I invited this. But I went on to Arizona Nightly News on Channel 12 here locally. And I was to debate an individual who sits in the state legislature here. And the debate was background checks. Universal background checks. And the first question out of the chute, I immediately realized that I was not there to debate one person, I was there to debate two people. The moderator and the other guest. I love it. Bring on 15 of them. It doesn't matter. And the first question out of the chute is this. Mr. Krauser, you tell us why and how universal background checks violate your fundamental right to keep and bear arms. Do you see what he did? It's a common tactic used by the other side. He wants to control the discussion. He wants to establish the parameters for the debate. What do you do in a situation like that? You turn the tables and you decide how this is going to be debated. Because it's not my job and it's not your job as citizens to tell the government, oh, this is how it violates my right. No, that's not how it works. Anytime government does something, it must begin with the idea and the proposition that I am free to do whatever I want to do so long as I don't violate the rights of other people. I have freedom of movement. And now you are proposing a piece of legislation that requires me to do something that at one time I would not have been obligated to do. So now you must address two questions before we move on with this debate. Tell me the harm that is being addressed by government, and number two, give me the compelling interest that the government has for purposes of implementing this piece of legislation. Do you see what we just did? We just went on the offensive. You tell us the harm that's going to be addressed. What do they say? Well, they didn't want to answer the question. They want to, that's exactly what they told me. You're not answering the question. I'm not answering the question because I don't have to. It's not my burden. I am a citizen. I'm a free man. You're implementing government action. You defend the government action first and foremost. He then went on and said, you want to answer the question? Asked it another way, and I said, well, wait a second. Let's talk about why we're even having this debate. Columbine, Virginia Tech, Aurora, Colorado, and now Newtown. If we're going to talk about harm being addressed, your legislation would do nothing to avert any of those tragedies. Again, here's the response. You're not answering the question. And then he turns to the individual that I'm supposed to be debating and says, Mr. Krauser's just fear-mongering, isn't he? He's just fear-mongering. Do you notice something? These are common phrases they have in their arsenal, and they will use them. It doesn't matter if it makes sense or not, they will use that because it's a part of their arsenal, even if it doesn't make sense. And what are the people doing that are listening? Well, some of them are saying, yeah, oh yeah. The moderator and the guest say he's fear-mongering, so Krauser must be fear-mongering.